Every civilization eventually dies. It's inevitable. But what about when it happens to you? What will you do when civilization crumbles around you? According to historian Arnold Toynbee, you have exactly 3 options, and only one of them leads to survival. Toynbee was an English historian who wrote a 12-volume work called A Study of History. He traced the life cycle of 24 civilizations. He believes civilizations flourish because of the creative energy of their leaders. But once that energy is lost, civilizations fall apart. They start looking for new ways to recover. Toynbee said that during this phase, people adopt new mindsets completely different from the ones that helped their civilization thrive in the first place. He writes, "Individual souls which have lost the opportunity for initiating the creative actions by which the growth of a society is sustained are apt to take refuge in a series of alternative reactions to the pressures of disintegration." So what are these alternative reactions to societal decay? Toynbee says that there are 3 main sentiments adopted by a declining civilization: detachment, utopianism, and transcendence. The first reaction is detachment. This is where an individual dissociates from a difficult reality. This can take 2 forms, either ascetic self-discipline or a hedonistic abandonment of morality. An example of each can be found in ancient Greece. As their civilization declined, 2 opposing philosophies became hugely popular: Stoicism and Epicureanism. Stoics adopted a life of self-denial, believing a firm internal disposition could help them weather any storm. Meanwhile, Epicureans embraced a vulgar hedonism where the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain was all that mattered. These mindsets seem opposite, but they're not. They both involve a detachment from the realities of a disintegrating civilization. By focusing on internal states of being, they abandon responsibility and let fate run its course. Detachment is one way to cope, but what about the people who can't just look inward? The next reaction is utopianism, the embrace of an idealistic vision that ignores reality. This also comes in 2 contrasting forms. Number 1, archaism, idealization of the past, and number 2, futurism, idealization of the future. Toynbee describes archaism as an imitation of past ancestors and ways of life. He writes, "The cult of the past, archaism, offers escape from a deadly present to the myth memory of an idealized past. Think of the Romantics of the late 1800s. They idealized the Middle Ages instead of tackling the pressing cultural issues of their day. The danger of archaism? It stalls a society's growth. Toynbee warns that it mirrors the mindset of pre-civilizational cultures, leading to stagnation. He writes, "Archaism comes near to being a lapse from the dynamic movement of civilization to the virtually static situation of a pre-civilizational mankind." Toynbee pointed to nationalism as a sign of archaism. In early 20th century Germany, leaders tried to link political movements with the nation's heritage. Kaiser Wilhelm I, for example, was sometimes depicted as a Teutonic knight, highlighting Germany's medieval heroism. The flip side of archaism is futurism. This is a utopian vision that promises a coming political or social revolution to solve all of society's ills. The problem with futurism is that it tries to leapfrog society's struggles with a single massive stride. Instead of building organically and learning from hardship, futurism provides the myth that utopia can be achieved immediately. Toynbee writes that futurism is ultimately a temporary solution that fails to solve any real problems. The revolutionary cry for immediate release from oppression becomes a meaningless slogan. A cathartic outburst is no substitute for hard-won wisdom. Worse, futurism often leads to tyrannical regimes. Promises of a perfect society lure the masses into supporting despotic leaders. The new society, of course, looks very different from the utopia the people were sold. The two sides of utopianism are ultimately attempts to escape the harsh realities of decline. The modes of life which we have called archaism and futurism are both attempts to escape from a crushing present by pointing to an alternative goal. So detachment fails, utopianism is a fantasy. What's left for us? Well, Toynbee points to a third option that allows a person to rise above the darkness of the moment. This last option is transcendence. Those who embrace transcendence reject detachment and utopianism. Instead, they use the hardships of their present to help create something new. They don't escape their suffering, they channel it. In this reaction, individuals have it within their reach to participate in a greater act of creation than is witnessed in even the most vigorous stages of social growth. Think of the suffering of the martyr. It was instrumental in spreading Christianity and eventually forging Western civilization. Toynbee writes, "It is not then by seeking to escape suffering, but by embracing and responding to it, that the soul born into a disintegrating society can win release and regain, on a higher plane, the path of growth from which his society has strayed." Toynbee does little to hide the religious influence of his analysis, claiming the transcendent individual ultimately gains entry into the kingdom of God by embracing suffering. The member of a disintegrating mundane society who has learned that self-fulfillment is won by self-surrender in God has a surer hope and therefore deeper happiness, for he will know that by suffering of a second birth he may gain entry into the kingdom of God. Ultimately, Toynbee's study is a challenge to all of us living in uncertain times. Will you choose detachment, shirking responsibility? Or will you grasp at utopian ideals, fantasies that have no hope of coming true? Or will you embrace the suffering of the moment and use it to build something new? Which path will you choose? Let us know in the comments. One more thing before you go. First of all, thank you for watching this video. We are so grateful for all our supporters, and would be especially grateful if you like, subscribe, and most importantly hit the bell. This ensures you never miss any of our videos. But if you're really passionate about exploring the timeless ideas of the West, we need your help to keep this mission alive. While our videos are here on YouTube, the heart of our work lives on Substack. Your support there allows us to continue our research and produce the in-depth essays, historical analysis, and cultural commentary you love. By joining, you become a key part of our effort to highlight the truth and beauty of the West. The link to join is in the description. Once again, thank you, and we'll see you over on Substack.